living in a city like Shanghai, actually, and I could put up a cityscape of Hong Kong. I could put one up of Singapore, Bangkok, or Jakarta, all the cities I go to on a normal basis. And what you just start to understand is the systems that exist that make a city what it is. Like, why do people come here by the hundreds of millions every year? You know, it's for economic opportunity, it's for improved quality of life, it's for hope and opportunity. It's something that we all talk about. But to get that done, to make that work, you really need all these things to work. You need energy, you need food, healthcare, education. And this for me is actually what sustainability is. So one of the first things that I had to learn about sustainability in Asia is how to redefine what it meant. It's not carbon and global warming and polar bears. It's life, it's people, it's economy. It's making sure that cities are a place to come and are sustainable on their own right. Now, why is Asia the best place for me, and why do I think that, I'm in complete agreement with David here about we need to fix it here. This is the urban population of 2,000, 450 million people in China. I don't know if Hong Kong is included in that. India, 288. By 2030, both of them double. So imagine how the systems have to adapt, change, grow. Food. I kind of break it down into two basic categories of why we need food. We have nutrition and we have health. But because we're in Asia, I'm also going to talk about safety as well. Where I get into footprints is that if you look at the Chinese, the way that they've changed their diet over the last 35, 40 years is this chart here that really strikes me at the core level. This is protein consumption. The red line you're looking at is pork, so that's the top. This goes from 10 kilos a year to about 68, 70 kilograms per year per capita over the last 45, 50 years. So how do you feed all these animals? How do you bring this to market? Well, you have to import soybeans. And for me, this is where things get really challenging at the system level. We're already seeing this, like, forget about food safety for a second, forget about the quality of food, just how do you bring that much food to market? Soy is one of the biggest, food sources for the animals. It's the feedstock. China has basically capped out at about 17, 18 million tons a year to be able to produce on its own. So it has to import the rest of it. Sorry, that top piece there. To make its 90 million tons a year consumption. So it produces 14 million and it consumes 90. That's totally unsustainable. It's basically their oil. And oh yeah, we need 125 million more head of pork by 2025. So what's that chart going to look like? Well, in the meantime, what China's been doing has been importing, and they're importing from everywhere. So they import these 90 million tons, and 30 million comes from the States, 32 from Brazil and Australia. Like, all these countries are contributing. And so my team and I actually looked at this last year. Was, how much water is embedded in these 30 million tons of soybeans? Sorry, it's not up there. It's 60 trillion liters of water. Just from the States. Now, that is basically 1.7 trillion showers at a 5-minute average, 734 billion baths. So you guys are almost right on an order of 300. It's a shower for every American for 14 years. Some of you remember Sanlu. And I bet anyone from Hong Kong knows the after effect economically of Sanlu. All the milk powder that had to be exported from Hong Kong into the mainland, by suitcase, by backpack, however it went, right? Now, this chart here is China's domestic production of milk over the last 30 years. In the period of 3 years, the amount of imports to China was the exact same size as domestic production. Because they lost faith in their domestic capacity to produce milk, so they went overseas. As one way to solve this problem, China's investing vast sums of money to fix this challenge. Last year, they announced a new farm that would bring in 100,000 dairy cattle onto one farm. Now, I know most of you who are vegans are probably shuddering at this. Anyone who understands anything about animal husbandry is definitely shaking at this, because the largest farm in the States is 20,000. The largest one and that's what they consider safe. The largest one in China right now is 40,000, and this will be 100. To give you an idea of China's scale, this is about 60% of the EU's total milk production will come off this one farm in China. 60%, right? That's how they're trying to scale. Bigger, better, more. But imagine if there's one failure there, you now have all that milk contaminated, right? Or worse. And we already saw what Sunlu milk happened. 300,000 children got sick because of that. And this is what happened to KFC, 3 times actually, not just once, but they kept stepping in this pile. They had one case where someone asked on Weibo, which is kind of like the Chinese Twitter, you know, how much hormone is in your chicken? You know, Weibo is something you have to respond to right away. But imagine when you've got 10,000 chicken suppliers, you don't know where this specific chicken comes from, you don't know the conditions of the farm, you really haven't tested your meats fully, so you don't know your supply chain. How are you going to respond on Twitter to that? Within 32 seconds. They lost 40% of their sales in 1 quarter. Ogilvy asked 9,000 Chinese, who's responsible for fixing these crises? And basically the punchline at the end of the day was like, yeah, the government has the power and they have the obligation, but they won't act. And the individual, they don't have any power, they certainly aren't obligated, but we're going to be forced into action. And they're acting against the corporation because the corporation, they should act, right? They're obligated, but they don't. So we feel as consumers, as individuals, as citizens, that we will ultimately have to act. And food is definitely one of those places because you can basically march with your wallet very quickly. And this is where I think that food brands, food entrepreneurs, food group, like if you're in this space at all, and it could be in, you know, health and fitness, health and wellness, it could be in that entire genre of kind of business, this is the opportunity right now.